There is a silence, a stillness inside each of us that is so incredibly beautiful. A silence, as Eckhart Tolle put it, there's always silence. It's present even when there's noise. Underneath the noise is the silence that remains, even when the noise leaves. That stillness, that silence is within us. And if one can connect to it, even in the midst of noise, what would be the essence of how it would be experienced? As peace, being grounded, feeling centered. The silence brings us into these experiences. In the last video, video number 3, I spoke about detachment. Right now, I just want to address what keeps us from being able to detach in a situation. Detach meaning being objective, truly objective in a situation that is a challenge. Because that's really where we're tested, in challenges, right? So what keeps us from just getting into that practical objective space? It's obviously what we bring with us. And what we bring with us is our backstory, our influences. When we come into this world as a baby, we go through a bit of a shock because we've just come from this incredible space of peace. And we enter into this different vibration, which explains why the babies cry. A little bit of a shock factor. And from that point on, we are dependent on everything and everyone outside of us. And usually, I'd say 99.9% of the time in this time of the planet, we are being raised by people, as loving as they may be or not loving. It's all kinds of people raising children, loving or kind or understanding. So whether they are or not, 99.9% of the time, people are not connected to their silence, to their inner silence. They're not aware of it even. I would say another word for this silence is just being, the beingness of us, the human being. And we are constantly now being influenced and satisfying our longing and wanting and needings from the external world. And all the influences of our upbringing, our environment, culture, whatever it may be, they're all being stored here in this hardware called the brain. And it is the same place, unfortunately, or whatever, where the thinking happens. So our analysis, our perceptions, it's all happening here where we're storing everything that's happening to us. This is the stuff we bring automatically to a situation. So we perceive it based on the stuff. We handle it based on the stuff. And we have also developed certain patterns of behavior in us, learned usually. And that pattern is what then looks at the situation, which is usually another person's pattern, or the pattern of a system that works a certain way, which may not be so effective, and then you want to deal with it. Now, what makes it easier to be detached is to step out of this. Is that even possible? Absolutely. It's well, you can just read Power of Now for that. I'm not going to necessarily get into the details of that. Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So basically, the barrier to our being able to be practically practical and objective in a practical manner. And practicality is a wonderful thing. In fact, I would say that spirituality equals practicality. Is to actually recognize the patterns in you, in oneself. So even if you're dealing with a challenge, your response to it, you have to be aware if you're having a patterned reaction response to a situation, or if you're going to be able to be very objective, detached, step out of the influences. That can't happen very suddenly and instantaneously unless one has been practicing not being the influences, the stories, the personality that has been formed automatically with the way that we grow up. So in everyday life, to connect to the stillness and the silence inside, to know oneself without the thoughts, without any thinking, or to be able to observe thinking, even if you can't stop thinking, to be able to observe it rather than to become those thoughts. That's the work that makes us stronger in our detachment capacity. Detachment's not a bad word. It's not about running away. It's about being present, but without the drama that the storage does bring, that the patterns in us will bring. The way we look at something, the way we think about what we see, everything, the interpretation is all by, if one hasn't stepped out of one's personality identity based on influences, then the way we see something is extremely through like some kind of, what do you call those, tainted glasses. So emptiness, silence, to practice that. When I first started to meditate, it was 2002. And it was just focusing on the breath, the inhale and the exhale for 15 minutes every morning and evening or night, twice a day. 15 minutes at the timer, focus on the inhale, focus on the exhale. That's all I did, which led, as per my scripting, my destiny to have a nirvanic experience in a couple of months. But what that experience brought to me was the kind of rich emptiness, freedom, peace and joy that is incomparable to anything an external world can give. So detachment, objectivity allows for the clarity and lightness that is true freedom. Yeah. Until next time. See ya.